The vast darkness of space held secrets beyond imagination, and on this particular day, those secrets were about to unfold in the most unexpected way. The Galactic Confederation's massive starship, gleaming with advanced technology, approached Earth's orbital zone with calculated precision. Commander Rella, a tall humanoid with metallic blue skin and sharp angular features, studied the planet below with a mix of curiosity and mild contempt. Her species had encountered hundreds of developing civilizations, and humans seemed particularly primitive by their standards. J. Park sat in the United Earth Diplomatic Center, reviewing his notes one last time. At 35, he was lean, sharp-dressed, and carried an unexpected confidence that would soon change everything. His team of researchers and diplomats waited anxiously, knowing this first contact could determine humanity's future. The alien transmission came through clear and direct. Greetings, Earth representatives. We are the Galactic Confederation, here to assess your species' potential for interstellar communication. Jay's translator clicked softly, converting the complex alien language into coherent human speech. He took a deep breath and responded, his voice calm and steady. Welcome to Earth. We are prepared to engage in diplomatic discussions. Commander Rella's initial scans of human communication protocols revealed something peculiar. Unlike most developing species they had encountered, humans demonstrated an incredible range of emotional complexity. Their language wasn't just about information exchange, it carried nuanced emotional undertones that fascinated her research team. During the initial meeting, Jay demonstrated an extraordinary ability to read subtle communication cues. When Commander Rella presented a seemingly straightforward diplomatic proposal, Jay noticed the slight tremor in her hand movement, a sign of underlying uncertainty that most species would have missed. Your proposal seems comprehensive, Jay said, but I sense there might be some reservations you're not directly expressing. Commander Rella was stunned. No species had ever detected her unspoken hesitation so quickly. Her species prided themselves on logical, emotionless communication, yet this human had penetrated her carefully constructed diplomatic facade. The research team accompanying Jay included Dr. Park Hye-won, a brilliant xenobiological researcher. She had spent years studying potential alien communication methods, and her work was about to become critically important. As discussions progressed, the aliens began realizing humans were far more adaptable than their initial assessments suggested. Jay's team presented comprehensive data about human cultural diversity, technological adaptability, and complex social structures. We don't just communicate, Jay explained. We connect. Our strength lies in understanding different perspectives. Commander Rella's preliminary reports to her superiors became increasingly complex. What started as a routine assessment of a developing planet was transforming into something extraordinary. The first day of negotiations revealed that humans possessed a unique combination of technological potential and emotional intelligence. They weren't just seeking technological exchange. They were offering a completely different approach to interstellar relationships. Dr. Hye-won's research became pivotal. Her preliminary studies on cross-species communication suggested that humans could potentially develop adaptive technologies that could bridge massive biological and cultural differences. Imagine communication not just as an information transfer, she told the alien delegation, but as a living, breathing exchange of understanding. Commander Rella found herself both intrigued and slightly uncomfortable. Her species had encountered thousands of civilizations, but humans were different. They didn't just want to exchange information, they wanted to understand. As the first day of negotiations concluded, an unexpected mutual respect began forming. The Galactic Confederation's initial assessment of humans as a primitive species was quickly unraveling. Jay Park watched the alien delegation prepare for their evening deliberations, a subtle smile playing on his lips. He knew this was just the beginning of a remarkable journey that would change everything they understood about interstellar relationships. The stars outside seemed to twinkle with anticipation, as if they too understood that something extraordinary was about to unfold. The research facility hummed with quiet intensity, its sterile white walls holding the promise of a breakthrough that could change everything. Seong Kim stood before a complex array of holographic displays, his fingers dancing across translucent screens that flickered with intricate genetic and communication algorithms. It had been 6 months since the first contact with the Galactic Confederation. The challenge was clear: create a technology that could bridge the massive communication gaps between humans and alien species. Most scientists believed it was impossible, but Seong was not most scientists. Dr. Elena Rodriguez walked into the lab, her coffee mug steaming with a strong Brazilian blend. "Any progress?" she asked, knowing full well that Seong had been working non-stop for weeks. "Maybe," Seong replied, his eyes never leaving the holographic projection. "We're close to something revolutionary." The breakthrough came from an unexpected combination of quantum communication theory and advanced genetic mapping. Seong had discovered that communication wasn't just about language. It was about understanding the fundamental essence of emotional and biological expression. Their test subject was a unique interface device that could translate not just words but emotional nuances. Initial tests with human volunteers showed promising results. The device could read micro-expressions, biochemical changes, and neural patterns that traditional translation methods missed completely. The Galactic Confederation had sent a research team to observe human progress. Commander Rella watched the experiments with a mixture of skepticism and growing curiosity. Human technological leaps were unlike anything her species had previously encountered. During a critical test, Seong connected the device to an alien communication module brought by the Confederation. The room fell silent as the first translation began. Instead of mechanical words, something extraordinary happened. The device started translating emotional contexts, cultural subtexts, and deep-level communication intentions. "It's not just translating," Elena whispered. "It's interpreting." The implications were massive. This wasn't just a communication device. It was a bridge between completely different forms of intelligent life. Species that had previously found each other incomprehensible could now potentially understand each other's deepest emotional landscapes. Commander Rella approached the device, her metallic blue skin reflecting the soft laboratory lights. "Explain how this works," she demanded, her voice a mixture of scientific curiosity and controlled excitement. Seong demonstrated the device's capabilities. It could detect emotional undertones, cultural references, and even predict potential misunderstandings before they occurred. The quantum neural network learned and adapted with each interaction, becoming more sophisticated with every translation. The research team ran multiple tests. They connected the device between humans, alien representatives, and even synthetic intelligence systems. Each test revealed layers of communication that had previously been invisible. "We're not just translating language," Seong explained to the gathered scientists and alien researchers. "We're translating experience. Every culture, every species has its own unique way of expressing complex thoughts and emotions." Dr. Elena Rodriguez added her expertise, showing how the device could detect subtle biochemical changes that accompanied emotional states. A slight shift in neural patterns could now be understood as a complex emotional statement. The Galactic Confederation's initial mockery of human potential was rapidly transforming into genuine respect. This small research team was doing what no other species had managed, creating a universal communication platform that respected the unique identity of each form of intelligence. As night fell, Seong continued working. The holographic displays cast soft blue and green shadows across the laboratory. Outside, the city lights of Earth twinkled, unaware that a small team was rewriting the rules of interstellar communication. Commander Rella watched the final test results, her previous assumptions about human capabilities completely shattered. This was more than a technological breakthrough. This was a fundamental reimagining of how intelligent species could interact. "Remarkable," she muttered, a rare smile crossing her typically stern features. The device represented more than technology. It was a promise, a bridge between different forms of life, a testament to human creativity and adaptability. In this quiet laboratory, The future of interstellar communication was being born. One quantum translation at a time. Sung looked up from his work, catching Elena's eye. They both knew they were on the edge of something extraordinary, a moment that would change everything. The diplomatic conference hall buzzed with an energy unlike any previous interstellar meeting. Wu Jin stood at the center, representing humanity's newest diplomatic approach, one that combined technological innovation with deep emotional understanding. Ambassador Kira from the Velox star system watched carefully. Her species had always considered diplomatic relations a strict, formal process. But humans were changing everything. The communication device developed by Xiong Kim and Elena Rodriguez sat quietly on the central table, a small piece of technology that held enormous potential. It wasn't just translating words anymore. It was translating entire cultural experiences. Wu Jin began the session by presenting a unique proposal. Instead of traditional trade agreements, he suggested a cultural exchange program that went beyond simple information sharing. The proposal included emotional intelligence workshops, cross-species relationship understanding, and collaborative problem-solving techniques. The alien delegates shifted uncomfortably. Their traditional diplomatic models were based on rigid protocols and minimal emotional engagement. Humans were introducing something entirely different, an approach that valued connection over transaction. A representative from the Korak system interrupted. How can emotional understanding replace standard diplomatic procedures? Wu Jin smiled. He activated the translation device, which immediately captured the underlying tensions and unspoken concerns in the representative's statement. Diplomacy isn't just about agreements, he explained. It's about understanding. To demonstrate, the human team presented a series of scenarios where traditional diplomatic approaches had failed. Then, they showed how their new method could resolve complex interstellar conflicts by addressing emotional and cultural underlying issues. The first breakthrough came unexpectedly. During a discussion about resource sharing, the Velox ambassador suddenly realized that her species' reluctance wasn't about the resources. It was about a deep-seated cultural fear of vulnerability. The translation device caught this nuanced, emotional context, allowing Wu Jin to address the real concern. Instead of pushing for a trade agreement, he proposed a collaborative approach that respected the Velox cultural boundaries. Ambassador Kira watched in amazement. Humans were doing something unprecedented. They were treating diplomatic relations like a complex emotional dialogue rather than a transactional negotiation. More alien species began showing interest. The Galactic Confederation, which had initially viewed humans with mild contempt, now sent observational teams to understand this new approach. Wu Jin's team introduced the concept of empathetic diplomacy, a method that recognized each species' unique cultural identity while finding common ground. They weren't trying to eliminate differences, they were celebrating them. One particularly complex negotiation involved 3 different star systems with centuries of conflict. Traditional diplomatic approaches had failed repeatedly. The human team approached it differently, using their advanced translation technology to uncover the emotional roots of the conflicts. The breakthrough was stunning. What seemed like a territorial dispute was actually rooted in generations of misunderstood cultural communication. By helping each species truly understand the other's perspective, the human team facilitated a resolution that no previous diplomatic mission had achieved. Commander Rella, who had initially been skeptical of human capabilities, now watched these negotiations with growing respect. The humans weren't just solving problems, they were transforming the entire concept of interstellar relations. As the diplomatic session continued, more alien representatives requested detailed information about human communication techniques. They were fascinated by an approach that valued emotional intelligence as much as technological capability. Wu Jin realized they were doing more than negotiating. They were teaching a new way of understanding, a method that recognized the complexity of intelligent life beyond simple transactional interactions. The translation device continued to work silently, capturing nuances that would have been missed in traditional diplomatic exchanges. It wasn't just translating words, it was translating entire cultural experiences, fears, hopes, and unspoken tensions. By the end of the conference, something remarkable had happened. The alien delegates weren't just discussing agreements. They were sharing stories, understanding each other's cultural contexts, and finding unexpected connections. Woojin looked around the room. The rigid diplomatic structures were crumbling, replaced by something more dynamic, more human. They had introduced a revolutionary concept, that true communication goes far beyond words, that understanding requires genuine emotional engagement. The stars outside seemed to watch, witnesses to a transformation that would change interstellar relations forever. 5 years had passed since the first breakthrough in interstellar communication. Mincio Park stood at the helm of the Interstellar Romance Institute, a facility that had become the most important diplomatic center in human history. The institute wasn't what anyone would have expected. It wasn't a traditional government building, but a vibrant, dynamic space where cultures from across the galaxy came to learn, understand, and connect. Alien species arrived not with weapons or trade agreements, but with a desire to understand each other. Diplomatic liaison Zara, a representative from a distant star system, walked through the holographic cultural simulation rooms. These weren't just training spaces. They were living, breathing environments where different species could experience each other's worlds without physical travel. In one room, a group of young aliens learned about human emotional expression. They practiced reading facial cues, understanding body language, and interpreting complex emotional states. What had started as a scientific exercise had become a fundamental approach to cross-species understanding. The Galactic Confederation, once rigid and hierarchical, was transforming. Their rigid social structures were crumbling, replaced by a more flexible approach that valued emotional intelligence. Species that had been in conflict for generations were now finding common ground. Min Seo watched a training session where Korax representatives learned about human conflict resolution techniques. Instead of traditional negotiation methods, they were learning empathy, active listening, and emotional navigation. "It's not about winning," she explained to a group of alien students. "It's about understanding. Every conflict has an emotional root that goes beyond simple disagreements." The translation technology had evolved. What began as a simple communication device was now a complex system that could capture the most subtle emotional nuances. It wasn't just translating words. It was translating entire cultural experiences. Unexpected partnerships began forming. Species that had previously been unable to communicate found themselves creating joint research projects, cultural exchange programs, and collaborative scientific initiatives. One remarkable development was the rise of interspecies relationship counseling. The Institute didn't just focus on diplomatic relations. They were helping different species understand each other on a deeply personal level. Commander Rella, who had once been skeptical of human capabilities, now led training programs that taught emotional intelligence across the Galactic Confederation. Her own species was undergoing a fundamental transformation. The cultural revolution wasn't just happening in formal institutions. Social media platforms emerged where different species shared experiences, learned about each other's cultures, and built genuine connections. Young aliens began studying human communication techniques as a standard part of their education. Emotional intelligence was no longer seen as a soft skill, but as a critical aspect of advanced intelligence. Min Seo's team developed virtual reality experiences that allowed species to literally walk in each other's environments. A Velox researcher could experience a human family dinner, understanding the emotional dynamics that shaped human relationships. The economic impact was significant. Traditional trade negotiations were replaced by collaborative projects that valued mutual understanding over simple resource exchange. Companies began valuing emotional intelligence as much as technical skills. Diplomatic missions transformed. Instead of formal, stiff interactions, they became cultural exchanges where understanding was the primary goal. The old model of representatives arguing over resources was replaced by genuine attempts to connect. Political structures began changing. Species that had previously been unable to form alliances were now creating complex, emotionally intelligent governance models inspired by human approaches. In the Institute's central hall, A massive holographic display showed real-time cultural exchanges happening across the galaxy. It was a living, breathing representation of a new kind of interstellar communication. Min-Seo realized they were doing more than creating a diplomatic tool. They were rewriting the fundamental ways intelligent species understood each other. The barriers of language, culture, and biological differences were dissolving. As evening approached, alien representatives from different star systems shared a meal, laughed together, and discussed their hopes and dreams. The scene would have been impossible just a few years earlier. The Cultural Revolution wasn't just changing how species communicated. It was changing what it meant to be an intelligent, compassionate civilization. The stars outside seemed to shine, a little brighter, witnesses to a transformation that would echo through generations. The Galactic Summit was unlike any previous gathering in recorded history. Jay Park, now a senior diplomatic advisor, stood at the center of a massive circular hall filled with representatives from hundreds of different species. 10 years had passed since the first breakthrough in human communication technologies. The universe had changed in ways no one could have predicted. What began as a simple diplomatic mission had transformed the very fabric of interstellar relations. Commander Rella, now a key advocate for the new diplomatic approach, watched as species that had been enemies for centuries now sat together, sharing stories and understanding. Her metallic blue skin reflected the holographic displays showing centuries of conflict resolution. The summit wasn't about power or resources anymore. It was about understanding, connection, and shared growth. Each representative carried a translation device that did more than convert words. It translated entire cultural experiences, emotional landscapes, and unspoken histories. Jay began his address to the assembled species. "We are not here to conquer or compete," he said, his voice calm and steady. "We are here to understand each other." The holographic displays showed the journey. From the awkward first contact to the current moment of unprecedented unity, humans had done something extraordinary. They had taught the galaxy how to truly communicate. Young diplomats from different species sat together, their communication devices capturing every subtle emotional nuance. What was once impossible was now normal. A Corax diplomat laughed with a Velox representative, sharing a joke that would have been incomprehensible a decade ago. The technological breakthroughs were just the beginning. The real transformation was emotional. Species learned to see beyond their biological differences to recognize the universal experiences of intelligence, compassion, and connection. A representative from a distant star system stood up. "Humans showed us that diplomacy is not about winning," she said. "It's about understanding." The economic models had completely transformed. Collaborative projects replaced competitive trade. Resources were shared, not fought over. Scientific discoveries became collective achievements rather than national or species-specific accomplishments. Jay remembered the early days when the Galactic Confederation had viewed humans as primitive. Now they were leading the most significant cultural revolution in galactic history. Not through military might, but through emotional intelligence. The translation devices had become more than technology. They were bridges between different forms of intelligence, capturing the most subtle emotional experiences. A slight change in breathing, a micro-expression, a hidden tension, all could now be understood. Commander Rella reflected on the journey. Her species had believed in pure logic, in removing emotion from decision-making. Now they understood that emotion was the key to true intelligence, to genuine connection. The summit wasn't just a meeting. It was a celebration of how far they had come. Species that had been unable to communicate now shared the most complex scientific and cultural insights. Collaborative research projects spanned entire star systems. One remarkable display showed a timeline of conflict resolution. Areas that had been war zones for centuries were now centers of cultural exchange and mutual understanding. The devices had done more than translate. They had healed historical wounds. Jay looked around the room. Young diplomats from different species worked together, their communication seamless, their understanding profound. They didn't see differences anymore. They saw potential for connection. The Galactic Confederation had transformed from a hierarchical, rigid organization to a dynamic, empathetic network. The old models of power and control had been replaced by collaborative understanding. As the summit continued, holographic displays showed real-time cultural exchanges happening across the galaxy. It was a living, breathing representation of a new kind of civilization, one built on understanding, compassion, and genuine connection. Commander Rella approached Jay, a rare smile crossing her typically stern features. "We never imagined," she said, "that communication could be so powerful." The stars outside seemed to watch, witnesses to a transformation that would echo through generations. Humanity had done something extraordinary. They had taught the galaxy how to truly connect. As the summit concluded, the assembled species didn't just sign agreements. They shared stories, understood each other's hopes and fears, and recognized their shared intelligence. The universe would never be the same again,